you have any perspective on whether there will be any cruise ships allowed to dock in Canada this calendar year?
I can pass it over to the Premier to talk about that. I can say that I'm part of a group that has been working with Transport Canada and with our federal counterparts in the U.S. about the potential, about when cruise ships can safely come back into BC, particularly. And we are still working on many of these questions.
CDC? Just touch on the CDC and the US.
Yeah, so part of this is, of course, the guidance that has come out from the U.S. Centers for Disease Control around what it would take to get cruise ships restarted, and they have very strict guidance, which includes things like a very high rate of vaccination in both staff and visitors on cruise ships. It has to be up to 95%, and that, of course, gives a lot of protection to those environments. However, we do know that shared accommodations and particularly elderly people, which we tend to see, older people who take cruises, it can be a risky environment. And we've seen that in long-term care homes, for example. So we're watching the U.S. guidelines, watching how they're being interpreted and what's happening with the cruise industry in the U.S. Very carefully, and particularly with our counterparts in Washington State, which is obviously the most relevant for us here in BC.
Thank you, Dr. Henry. And I would just add, Les, that a great deal of work is going on at the staff level with intergovernmental relations in my office. Minister Fleming, Minister Mark are meeting with the industry to ensure that they have a complete understanding of what's required to restart the sector. There are a host of issues at play here. Of course, we're going to be guided by the science. The federal government also will be guided by the science, and having Dr. Henry working with PHOs across the country to inform Dr. Tam and the advice that she gives to the federal government is critical to that, as Dr. Henry suggested. But there's also a whole host of other work that needs to be done. Ambassador Hillman, the Canadian representative in Ottawa, and I talk regularly. We're scheduled to talk again this week. And on Thursday, the Prime Minister has asked the premiers to come together to talk about reopening the borders, land, sea, and air. And of course, we're very interested in those discussions. We've been working on it quietly because, there is anxiety in the community. I know that, I feel that. And we want to make sure we're on the right track. Cruise ships are a component part of reopening the borders, a significant one to be sure. And as I said last week, after talking to Senator Murkowski, the law that she brought forward and was passed will sunset when the borders open. The new initiative by another senator from a landlocked state is another issue in U.S. politics. But what we can do here in British Columbia and in Canada is prepare for reopening the industry. I know people want to come to British Columbia. They want to cruise up the coast of our great province, and we're excited about that as well, but only when it's safe to do so.